Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Can you please confirm if you can hear us? All right, great. Type in the question answer box. Thank you very much. Loud and clear. Fantastic. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much once again. And I welcome you all to our webinar for today, which is on managing people. Another very important webinar from the series of leadership. Of course, managing people is very closely linked to leadership, and that's why we've selected this topic. A very, very important topic. A lot of situations that we're going to discuss are what you encounter in your organizations while dealing with people, whether they are senior or junior to you. So I think this is such an important topic that it really, really helps you increase or improve your efficiency as you deal with different people in your teams. I hope all of you will enjoy the most from this session. This session, once again, we have discussed at length on how to keep this session very, very interactive. So yes, once again, you will find the session extremely interactive. However, our session will only be useful if you actively participate in the conversations throughout the session. How will you participate in the conversations? From time to time, we are going to have poll questions. From time to time, the trainer is going to ask questions where you will be required to comment. So you will comment in the question answer dialog box, right? And that will keep the discussion going. After every topic, Mr. Malik is going to take a question and answer break, and that will be your opportunity to type in your questions. I would suggest that in the meanwhile, while the conversation is going on, please note down the questions somewhere, and just as a question and answer break is announced, I would suggest that you go on and type in your question. I hope all of you have already attended webinars and you know the decorum, the way we handle the webinars. I would suggest you get familiar with the question answer dialog box. That's the most important. That's where the conversations would take place. At this point, I will also like to introduce our trainer for today's session to all of you. Although the detailed introduction Mr. Malik will do himself, but Malik Mirza Sahab is a very senior ACCA member. I think about 6 or 8 years back, 6 years back I would say, he's not that old, he's very young, mashallah, very smart. About 6 years back, he was the chairman of ACCA Pakistan Members Network Panel also. He has a lot of experience from the microfinance sector, but recently or lately he has left the microfinance banking sector and has started up his own concern by the name Finman Group. So it's a consulting organization, a training organization, does a lot of things. This organization has done quite a few consultancies for ACCA as well on the topic of CPEC, on sustainability, and is actively involved in a number of other initiatives. So without stealing Mr. Malik's thunder, I would like to hand over to Malik Saab, and he will take you to throughout the session. Just a few announcements before I hand over, and those are the usual announcements. So for example, about the certificates, yes, all the participants of the session, with the exception of those who would just come in and leave, will receive today's certificate for attending this session. Secondly, about the presentation, we have already agreed that the contents of the presentation in a PDF format will be shared with all the participants, those who are here and those who are not here, as in those who registered but could not join in. The contents will be shared with them. Number 3, the recording of this entire webinar session will be available to you almost immediately after the session is over. So if you want to revisit some content, if you want to look at the entire content again, or if, for example, somebody has not attended the session at all and now wants to become part of it, or understand it, or go through it, they can view the recording. The recording will be available on 3 different channels, and that can be viewed by participants as and when they want. However, certificates of participation which could be used as an evidence for CPD are only offered at the moment to live participants, which means yourselves. Great. So with that, I hand over to Mr. Malik Mirza, and Malik Saab, over to you. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Harun Saab, for your nice and brief introduction. First of all, I would like to thank all the participants for your time towards this important topic. And I would really request everyone to please share your experiences, do ask questions, participate, because when I conduct workshop, the key thing which I request to participant is to ask questions and share their experiences, because all of us come from the organizations where we are dealing with people, we are learning new things every day, and this is the opportunity to not only share our experience, but to also learn from one another. So thank you very much for your time towards this learning opportunity. And just to start, who am I? As Harun Saab has introduced briefly, my name is Malik Mirza. I am an author of a storybook published by Oxford University Press called Chacha and the Forest of Wisdom. This is a very interesting and unique book, I would say, which is written on the topic of financial literacy and financial education for children. And the first edition was all sold out. It was purchased by a non-government organization dealing with 100 schools in Pakistan, and they said that this is something which children should learn. Myself and an ACCA member from Hong Kong, actually we co-authored it. This is a very interesting storybook, and you can find it on the website of Oxford University Press and their outlets. Secondly, I'm a fellow member of ACCA. When I did my ACCA way back in 2000, I remember that we used to obtain ACCA material and books directly from UK. Like we engaged our friends and we collectively got 1 or 2 sets which were then photocopied. So now things have changed, things have moved. I've got over 18 years of corporate experience. I've worked in FMCG, telecom sector, financial institutions, and I've also got a degree in microfinance from School of Frankfurt, Germany, and I'm also an IFC certified trainer. I'm running my own consultancy, as Arun Saab mentioned, after working for around 18 years, and we are into training, advisory, and corporate matters. So who am I to talk about managing people? What is my experience? How can I tell and discuss about this thing? So firstly, my experience is quite interesting and unique. I have managed from small teams to very large teams. And during my last stint as Chief Financial Officer of a nationwide microfinance bank, which is a financial institution dealing in deposits and lending, I started the institution literally from scratch, and I hired people not only in finance department, but I was required to get people on board as I was supervising HR. So I was responsible for getting branches operational, making sure that people actually get hired based on the criteria which we have set up. I've gone through the processes formation and processes implementation in form of different HR matters, financial matters, including appraisals and bonuses and dealing with grievances and that kind of stuff. So I've seen quite a lot of things during my career. And also right now, I am on the board of Aga Khan Health Services, and we have got over 130 health centers and units across Pakistan with over 1,200 employees. So I'm on my honorary capacity. I'm on their board and I chair their finance committee. So this is something about me, that I have dealt with people, and I'm sure that all of you do deal with people. So in this webinar, actually, our thinking or our plan was to share the body of knowledge which is available and to have a candid discussion around this topic on our experiences in our organization from we come from. So let's start. During this presentation, what is my flow? We would be starting with a very initial point that what happens when somebody becomes a manager. Like there's a difference between a person who is a techie and a person who is a manager. What are those differences? We need to understand that first. That when we become manager, what kind of challenges are we actually talking about? What kind of issues or challenges we have to face? What is the difference between a technical expert and a manager? So we are going to discuss about that. Second and most important topic for the day is dealing with people. And here I have tried to summarize our discussion with dealing with our superiors and dealing with our subordinates, so that we get a flavor of things in our organization in a very practical manner. And I would love to have word with you on that. And I would request you to take part in poll questions, because we actually would be taking these poll questions into our discussion for the day. Third is, how can you develop skills among the people who report to you, like your subordinates or executives, because we have seen that many times it happens that we say that instead of training somebody or getting it done through somebody else, forget it, let's do it ourselves. Why waste time on training somebody? And we know that that guy cannot perform. So why waste time in coaching? Why waste time in mentoring? Better to do it ourselves. Is this a good approach? What are the pains related to delegation? We are going to discuss about that. We are going to discuss little about team building as well. And last but not least, there are a couple of tips on achieving good results, because honestly speaking, what I feel is that leadership or management is all about achieving results. Initially, we achieve result through our performance, but once we are in a managerial position, we achieve results through other people. So management is name of getting things done. Either we do it ourselves or we get it done through others. But management is a science and art of getting things done. So we are going to spend some time on that as well. So this is the flow, and I have consulted many books for that, and at the end I am going to suggest a few good books which you can consult to develop your skills further, to learn more about the body of knowledge which is available. And based on my practical experience, which I'm going to share with you, I would like to learn from you as well, so that you can share your experience with others. So let's start. What happens when you become a manager? One fine morning, you realize that you are a qualified, certified accountant. You are happy. You feel really accomplished, because this is a big achievement to become an accountant, to become a certified accountant, and to pass the exams, to become an affiliate or a member. And one fine morning, somebody says that now you're going to supervise 3 people. What happens? From our role of a technical person who is looking into operations, our daily bookkeeping, we suddenly become a manager. What happens? Is there some kind of stress? Are we thinking what will happen next? Or we are comfortable that, okay, this is piece of cake, I can manage people, I don't have experience, but I'll do that. So what happens when we become a manager? When we don't have to manage people, our focus is on technical skills. But the day we become a manager, our focus shifts from technical side to softer side of people, that how can we lead the team better? How can we get things done through people? What should I be doing to make sure that my subordinates work when I'm not in my office, and that kind of stuff. So higher you go, better you need to be in people management. Secondly, When we are techies, we are finance professionals, we are experts, we are doing our own job. We are responsible for our work. Like I am responsible to my boss to present whatever I have prepared, and I have full control over that. Fortunately or unfortunately, the day we become manager, that thing change. Now we have people who are doing their work and they are reporting to us and we are reporting to someone else, and we are responsible for whatever is going in our organization, in our own function, in our own domain. So the key thing which I would say a change is to get job done through people. So in that we find issues about controlling the output. We are not happy with the people behavior. We are not happy with the team which we get. And we often complain about that the people which I've got are not good. Or we can get good team. That depends on the perception or the experience which we are having. When we are techies, somebody else is delegating work upon us. But when we become manager, we get an opportunity to delegate our work to others. So certainly the paradigm shift takes place. From a loner, we become a manager and we get resources to get things done. While we are alone, we have a control over the output or the presentation which we make. When we are a manager, we are judged on the output of our team, on output of the people we supervise. So these changes occur when we become a manager. So my question to you, if you are a manager, do you enjoy managing people, or you consider managing people to be a stressful job? And your answers: 1, I enjoy managing people. 2, I consider it to be a stressful job. I don't manage people. So may I request answer, if you can start selecting any one option. We have 3 options here. The question is very simple. If you are a manager, do you enjoy managing people, or you consider that no, the managing people is a very stressful job? So there are 3 choices here. First, you consider managing people an enjoyable job, which is the first option. I enjoy managing people. Number 2, do you consider this to be a very stressful job? Are you stressed out? And third, you don't manage people. May I request if you can just poll in this and let me know of your answer, so that we can actually consider your answers before we move forward. And then we are going to learn about the audience, that the audience which we are having right now, what kind of experience are you bringing on table? So if you enjoy managing people, please select the first option. If you consider it to be a stressful job, please select option 2. And if you're not managing people, may I request if you can select option number 3, which says I don't manage people. The poll results will help us to actually work out the experience of the audience. And I would encourage you to please provide your responses. So our polling has started, and we will give around 30 seconds. So I may request everybody to please cast your vote. The first option is I enjoy managing people. The second option is I consider it to be a stressful job. And the third is that I don't manage people. So may I request if you can please provide your answers, so we can actually share these with our participants, and this will also help us to know about the profile of the people we are having. So if we take a look at the poll's result, these are very interesting results. Congratulations. We have a very happy audience today, and while 6% of the audience is not managing people, 25%, which is 1 in each 4 of our audience, consider it to be stressful, while around 69% consider it to be an enjoyable job. So these are very interesting and very encouraging result, I would say. Like, we consider that around 2/3 of our audience, around 69%, enjoy managing people. Congratulations. However, having said that, 1 of every 4 person in our audience consider it to be a stressful job, while only 6% are here who don't manage people. But I am sure that once you progress in your career, on your path of your career succession, a day will come when you are going to manage people. So either you would be enjoying it or you won't be enjoying it. So that is something which is I would say, matter of a choice. That if I choose that I enjoy managing people, that becomes fun. I start enjoying whatever I do. I start enjoying building my team. I start enjoying my interaction with people. But if I consider it to be stressful, then it is going to take toll on my life. So what kind of toll is it going to take on my life? What are the signs that my job has actually becoming stressful and I'm not enjoying my job? Are there some signs? Okay, let's look at it. And may I ask you that how many of you consider that these are signs of stress? Are you taking work to your home on a regular basis? Are you working regularly on late nights? Are you working on your weekends? Are you stressed out physically, mentally, or emotionally? You talk less? So may I ask you if you can share your experience? What are the signs of stress which you consider are there? Do you consider that taking work to home on regular basis, does this constitute some stress? Or do you consider that working regularly late night, this is some cause of stress? Or you consider that you have to often work on weekend when there is reporting or budgeting pressures and some pressure from the management? Or you have actually faced some kind of stress sign? So may I request if you can just type in your responses and let us know that do you consider any of these signs to be signs of stress? Working late at night, working on weekends, anything which you consider to be stressful. So we look forward for your answers on that. Then, when we discuss about when you become a new manager, what happens? What are the conditions or the states which a newly promoted manager has to go through? So we come across around 7 steps which a manager, when we got people beneath us or we get people to be supervised, there are 7 stages or 7 steps which experts tell us which happens. First is, at times it is shock. When you start dealing with people, you consider that, oh my God, I never thought this to be like that. You are in state of shock, which results into state of denial. Or you start thinking, this is not that bad as I thought. You start to check the reality with your perception. You start enjoying with passage of time. Or it can lead you to some kind of stress or depression, that I don't feel appropriate to handle so many people. I don't feel comfortable to talk to the person who sit opposite to me, and I feel shy. I am not able to speak in the public. I am not able to gather them in team meeting. Sooner or later, you start accepting the reality, because you are a manager. You cannot run away. You have got that position. You have got people whom you are answerable for, and the people who are reporting to you. So in that manner, what do? You start testing different ways. You start testing different ways of dealing with people. So, and finally, once you have tried different approaches, you come to the point by trial and error, which we call learning by doing, that what works. You come to the point when you try different approaches and then you accept the change which has actually came in your life. So I would like to ask you the question which I was asking earlier, and that is, what is the point, and we have started receiving answers as well. There are a lot of people I have in front of me who are saying that yes, there are signs in which we feel that we are facing a tough environment. Ijazul Haq Sahab has said that all these are signs of stress: working late at night, working on weekend, taking work at home. Hamad Mustafa says that working regularly on late night, yes, if that becomes habit, then it is a sign of stress. Mehboob Ahmed says that working regularly on late night. Raza Hassan says pressure from the top management. Yes, once you become a manager, there is lots and lots and lots of pressure which you take. And the typical answer is, that's why you are manager. Welcome to the world of management. And then if we see, Mr. Imran believes that all these things are natural. Like if I work late at night, if I'm working on weekends, I don't consider this to be a pressure, you see. So we have got people who consider that while they're happy working late at night, only working on weekend matters, because they consider that weekends are for families. So if they have to work on weekends, then they consider that to be stressful. Otherwise, they consider it's perfectly fine. So what I see from the responses we are getting, it's either working late at nights or working on weekend. And we have got a couple of participants in our workshop who are saying that yes, SM Mehboob says that we are seeing signs of stress physically and mentally. Shehbaz Maktoum says yes, stress causes disturbance in our life, work balance life. We are unable to balance it. Anam says that taking work home on daily basis and working on weekends, all are stressful. So what from these, what I gather is that late sittings, working late at night, taking your work to home, working on weekends, all these are signs of stress. At times it happens that these things come to us when we start managing people. It happens that we plan something and at the last moment when we are leaving, something pop-ups. One of the things which we used to say in our job, that at every Friday evening 4:30, boss is going to send me an email telling me that, dude, I need this report on Monday morning 9 a.m. on my table and you have 2 days to work. So this may become something which we have to, I would say, surrender, and in that case we have to work over weekends. So the point is that once we become manager and we are actually spending too much time in our office, we are stressed. And Amar Siddiqui has also mentioned that the arguments and conflicts with subordinates or on regular basis are really stressful. This is a very important point which he has made. What he is saying is that I do have subordinates, I have people who are working under me, but the problem is that once I delegate or I discuss something with them, then there is a conflict situation. And by the way, we are going to have another webinar on how to deal with conflicts and how to get resolutions. This is a big skill which is needed. We are going to come to that later. However, having said that, we need to manage stress. And there are a couple of tips and techniques as we move forward that we are going to see that how can we manage stress. And I have tried to put a few in the slides which we are going to discuss. So, Khurram Adil says that ability to foresee coming tasks enable managing to prioritize tasks, enabling them to cope up with stress. What he's telling us is that we need to prioritize our task as well. Everything is not a deadline. Everything is not that urgent to be delivered at 11th hour. If we start taking everything simultaneously and we say that no, everything has to be done as of yesterday, then yes, this would be a big cause of stress. And believe me that such kind of stress is not going to hurt anybody, but only to the person who is actually taking that stress home with him or her. Like family life is disturbed, our schedule is disturbed, we are unable to actually focus on the priorities in our life. Like if I enjoy walking, or I enjoy reading books, or if I enjoy playing some sports, we start ignoring that if we have that kind of stress in our work. So that needs to be managed. So we are also going to take a look at that. Usman Raza has really made a very interesting point, saying that working from home is also stressful. So if you are not happy at home, you are not happy at office, we need to find out a place of work where we are happy. So thank you, Usman, for that point. So Jawad Chuttais, I have mentioned that initially it is a very painstaking process. It seems never ending, but slowly art of taking work from team is learned. A very pertinent and a particular remark that we start learning. As I mentioned, in couple of organizations, I have actually witnessed that the motto learning by doing is appreciated. People say that we learn by making mistakes. And I would like to share a very interesting quote with you. It is said that a mistake is not a mistake when you commit it. A mistake is a mistake when you repeat it. So we need to understand that nobody is perfect except God. People are going to make mistakes. There would be things happening which are beyond our control. There would be something popping out which is not planned, because this is practical life. Everything is not going to go by books. However, having said that, we need to learn how to manage ourselves and how to manage people, and we are shortly going to discuss about that. So Saad Majid has really made a very interesting point. He says that I don't take work to my home, I enjoy my weekend. So good work, Saad, I really appreciate that. So there are people who try to manage their lives in a way that they can give time to their families, they can give time to themselves, and they make sure that if they have team, that team is capable, the people are capable, who can get things done quickly, accurately, and in a very logical manner. And we are going to discuss this further, because at times it happens. Let me give you an example of Excel. I found that my team members were taking lot of time in preparing vouchers. So I just sat with one of them, I had a word with them, and sooner I realized that the problem is that that guy is unaware of taking full potential of Excel in use. So I sent him to a training, he learned about MS Excel, and when he came back, he was actually able to reduce his time. Let me give you another practical example. In one case, I realized that most of the time one of our colleague was spending, she was spending most of the time in writing checks. So I said, what to be done? Like almost a day or 2 days, because we were a financial institution, in a week was consumed in just writing checks. So how can this situation go on? So I actually deliberated, tried to find a solution, and finally I was able to find an add-on in MS Excel in which you can actually print your check once you have the data of your suppliers in MS Excel. And believe me, that 2 days actually reduced to hardly 2 hours. So the new technology, use of the things which we are not doing, that is a challenge, and we are going to discuss about it. Faisal Yusuf has made a very interesting remark. He says that I feel stress when my subordinates are not obeying my orders. This is a very interesting point. I feel I have no or limited option to pressurize them to manage deadline. You see, very interesting words he has used. He says that what if my subordinates don't listen to me? What should I do? They are not understanding the pressure I am having. They are not caring about my deadlines. What should I be doing? So we are going to discuss that later on. Umar Mansoor has made a very interesting remark. He says, learn everything you can and work smarter. Thank you, Umar Mansoor, for your feedback. Raza Saab has made a very interesting remark which I am going to discuss at length. He says that subordinates are not competent enough to deal with. They need spoon feeding. So here we come where Mr. Raza is telling us that subordinates need spoon feeding. I cannot delegate my work because they are actually consuming a lot of time. So what to do? So we are actually going to discuss that as well. Mr. Imran has made a very interesting point. He says that stress comes when you dictate team rather than manage team. These are two very interesting words, dictate team and managing team. So we are going to discuss about that. Mr. Tariq Bhavani has made a very interesting remark. Thank you, Tariq, for that remark. He says that if you can do that, I leave my laptop at my work. So I would like to add here that if possible, you can leave your mobile phone at work as well. That might reduce your stress, but frankly, it's really difficult. So the last remark which I have got from Talha Saeed is very interesting. He says that subordinates don't want to work. So, an immediate comment which I have got response from Usman Mohammad Ashraf Saab, he says, I will give my subordinates decent training. So we are going to discuss about these things. We are going to discuss whatever you have said. Some of you have made excellent remarks. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Most of us do face stress in our life. Nobody is stress free. So how to deal with that? We are going to discuss that. So what we discussed here is that taking work to our home, going back to our family saying that this weekend is office weekend, working late at night, these are all causes of stress. The question is that if I am a manager and I have got 3 people or 4 people or 5 people or a 10 people team, still if I'm working late at night, if I'm investing my weekends over the office, if I'm taking work back at my home, then what's the issue? Am I not delegating properly? Or my team is incompetent? Or there is some other issue? So we are going to actually discuss that. There's a very interesting quote by Einstein which I want to quote here. Einstein said that he defined insanity, and he defined it very beautifully, very beautifully. He said that insanity is defined as doing same thing again and again and expecting different results. And I would like to tell you about a story of Mr. Mullah Nasiruddin. Mullah Nasiruddin has been known in different cultures with different names. At times he's called Effendi, he's called Hojja, he's called Nasiruddin. So what happened was that someone saw Mullah Nasiruddin. He was searching something somewhere beneath a lamp post where there was a lot of light. So that guy went to Mullah Nasiruddin, said that, sir, what are you looking for? Mullah Nasiruddin said, I just lost my ring somewhere. So that guy asked, you lost your ring somewhere? What does that mean? You said you lost your ring somewhere and you are searching here? So Mullah Nasiruddin said, actually, I lost my ring over there, but there's too much darkness there. So I just came to light so that I can search my ring under the light. I don't want to search there in dark because I can't see anything. So that's the art of management, that if there are areas which we consider to be dark, we need to lit our candle, we need to move there and try doing different things. And it's really difficult. Trying new things, trying different things has got their own fear of failure, fear of change. People may not be comfortable in trying different things. People may not be comfortable in using new approach. But my point here is if you keep on doing same thing again and again and again, you are going to get same results again and again and again. So next we come to the point that what can you do when you become a manager? So here are a couple of tips. Learn to deal with people. That's the first and foremost. That therefore we are here. We are discussing about managing people. We need to acknowledge that when we become manager, change is needed. Initially we discussed that when we are techie, we are excellent person to do our work. But when we are given tasks to manage people, we need to realize that things have to change. Things have to change. Now we have subordinates who think differently, who behave differently, who have got different mindset, who have got their own perceptions. So how to deal with that? One thing which I would suggest, because I have often used it, to go to a mentor and ask for help. Approach someone who has been through that journey. And there are many people who have been in the managerial slot before us, our colleagues, people whom we admire, people whom we have seen around. Just go to them and ask. And after these LinkedIn and Facebook and WhatsApp, I think it's better to get advice from those who are actually experienced or who have passed through that road. That is helpful. However, I would like to mention here that please note that experience of every person is different from the other person. So something which one person has experienced may not be the experience of the other person. So we need to be considerate of the fact that we should go to those who can actually offer us advice and who have gone through that path. Also, I would suggest that we need to focus on our key priorities. One thing which is extremely important in every kind of situation and every kind of environment, I would say, and that is to be positive. At times it happens that due to our environment, due to gossip, due to office politics, whatever, we drift. We start taking a cue that this is not possible. This can't be done that way. Oh, and I told this happens this way always. This is the person who has never been able to deliver me on time. Hold on. Just watch your words. Be mindful of your words and your thoughts. We say that thought becomes things. So we need to keep a very close eye on what we are thinking. If our thinking is not on the positive trend, we are going to see the same manifestation in our everyday lives. So we need to think positive and to become positive. And my final word on this is to get some training. Now we have a poll question here. And my poll question is, have you faced a situation when you have to supervise those people who know more than you? Let me repeat this question. Have you faced the situation when you have to supervise those people whom you think who know more than you? Let me give you an example. You are a young manager and you have been given charge of those who know more than you. Have you ever been into that situation? So if yes, please click yes, that you have supervised those people whose operational knowledge and qualification are more than you. If that is yes, please click yes. If you have not faced that situation, please click no. So let me give you an example, because I have witnessed this a lot. When I qualified, I was very young. And most of you, when we qualify ACCA or pass our exams, technical exams, we are fairly young. It happens that we have to supervise those people who are very experienced, old when we talk about the age, and they have got a lot of experience, I would say. They are working in that department, say maybe for like 10-15 years, and we just qualified one qualification and we are there. So have you faced that situation where you have supervised those people whose operational knowledge and qualification is more than you, and you have managed that? Or your answer is no, you have not faced any situation. May I request you to please take part in this poll and provide us with your answers so that we can actually share your experience with everybody who is with us on this webinar. if you have supervised those people whose operational knowledge and qualification are more than you, please select first yes. If you have not faced any such situation, please click no. So may I request if you can just consider your polls and let us know if your answer is yes or no. So what are the responses, Harun Sahab, if I may ask? May I request if you can complete the poll by answering yes
Answer.
or no?
So the answers are on the screen now. 58% have said yes and 42% have said no.
So Harun Sahab, what does that show?
The majority have faced situations where they have a subordinate who's more experienced, and
Yes.
but there is a big percentage as well who feel that they have not come across such a situation. However, it will be.
Hello?
I think it will be interesting to know how to deal with an individual who thinks he's more knowledgeable or is actually more knowledgeable operationally or otherwise than the supervisor.
Yes. So what I would suggest here is when I come to the next slide, I would like to ask my participants to share their experience that what will you do when you come across those people whom you have to supervise and those people have more knowledge than your knowledge, or who are capable than you think you are capable of. Because we have got majority in our participants who have actually faced this situation where they have gone through such situation. However, equally, we have participants who have not gone through such situation. So how can we share our experience? This is my request. So my question to you after this slide would be that please share your experience. So what are the signs that the people whom you supervise know more than you? People often use some technical terms which we call jargons, which we don't understand. They use a lot of technical terms. People may bypass you that he or she is a young guy, so there's no point in even talking to him or her, and they just go to your boss directly. So these are the signs that people you are supervising consider that we know more than you. And we have got a mix of audience here. So I would actually, before moving to next slide, I would like to ask you if you can share your experience. What would you do to manage people who know more than you? Let me repeat the question. My question is, what would you do if you have a team in which you have people who know more than you? So the first answer which we have got, Imran Khan has said that be polite and listen passionately to these people. Mr. Tariq Bhavani has really shared a very nice word. He says that what worked in my case is respect and love towards my subordinates who were much older and experienced with me, and with the passage of time they began to like and respect me. This is very important. The two words Mr. Tariq Bhavani has used, love and respect. Love can be described as a positive viewpoint, I would say. When you love someone, you don't try to find their mistakes. You think very positively. You consider the characteristics in a very positive manner. So here, if we have subordinates whose technical knowledge or age is more than us, then we actually need to respect and love them, which Mr. Tariq Bhavani has said. And with the passage of time, they are going to accept our authority and position. Mr. Mohammad Irfan Asghar says that I will try to listen more than speak. And Mr. Amanullah Mangrio said that learn from them. This is very important and this shows very open-mindedness. Thank you, Mr. Amanullah, and thank you everybody who is giving us responses. Amanullah says that we learn from them, making the learning process easy. One can always learn from everyone. Be open-minded. I would really suggest that we need to put some quotes in our desk space or our workspace so that we can actually be reminded of these terms. We can get very small quotable quotes pasted on our desk or workplace or besides our laptop, or maybe we can set that as a screen of our laptop where we can actually get refresh of those things. Tana Said says that get their attention by asking them for their experience. This is another very useful suggestion, saying that we actually can get more from their experience, so why not ask them? Mr. Mohammad Fahim Chaudhary says that we need to be flexible and appreciate viewpoints of others. Shehbaz Maktoum says that it may basically happen when you are more qualified, so show them you have more technical knowledge you learn from academics. You have to show something. So now this is a very balanced view coming from our audience, and thank you everybody for your thoughts. Some people have rightly pointed out that love, respect, listen. Some people are saying, but at the same time, show them that your technical knowledge, your competency is more than theirs. So Ms. Zunair Jalal says, I would use participative approach, but use quality and output measure to evaluate them. Very interesting point. Abdul Hamid says, I learn from them attentively and ask them any question humbly if I don't know. Very, very interesting point being made, that there's no harm in asking questions. You can ask as many questions as you want, and you can learn from them. You can share your experience. You can demonstrate your technical knowledge. You can make them learn something new. Salman Naveed says that participate, approach, and do brainstorming. Be a listener and learner and always have a smile while discussion. Thank you, Salman. So this makes us to have that smiley on our WhatsApp, or maybe somewhere we can actually tell people that look, I'm smiling when I'm talking. Thank you, Salman. Nice point. Deepak Kumar says the best would be to learn from them. Rizwan Shahzad says that respect their ideas and knowledge and treat them politely and courteously. Ijazullah says that I acknowledge their expertise, I listen to them, and I make a rapport. This is a very important point. And when we are going to come, when I'm going to talk little about NLP, I'm going to talk about this rapport thing. Syed Shehzad Ahmed said that respect the person's knowledge and use it for the advantage of completion of task. This is very interesting point. Let me share you, when we were having a training of IFC, it's a World Bank's body, and our trainer came from US, and he was telling us about experience sharing. So what he did, a very interesting exercise. We were sitting on tables. So he asked us that everybody write the number of experience you have on the white screen. Okay, perfect. So there were around 4 people on one table, 4 people on other. So we were like around 16 people in 4 tables. So someone was on my right said that I have got 20 years of experience. I said I have 18 years of experience. Someone who was sitting left to me said I have 12 years of experience. He kept on writing that number on the whiteboard. He kept on writing and writing and writing. And then he totaled it. And he made a very pertinent remark which I still remember. He said that, look, ladies and gentlemen, we have got 232 years of experience sitting in this room. My age is 46. Do you consider then I can match this 240 years of experience which I am having in this room? No way. So the idea is that when we have a team, we have got people with a lot of experience. So it's better to use that force, their experience, consolidate them, learn from them, question them, and make them learn as well. This would be a two-way traffic. This would be a two-way communication. So we need to be very particular of that thing. Momin Suhail Khan has made a very interesting remark. He says that they help me in understanding the company policies in a better and practical way. And this I've learned a lot. That those people who are more experienced, they don't actually are shy away from sharing their experiences. They share their experiences, they tell you, provided you ask them with respect, provided you ask them with love and care, and you don't tease them or you taunt them or you use the word which they consider to be impolite. Anil Dhanji said that we both looking on the common objectives. Mr. Imran Ali, who has become a manager in an online marketing place, he says that I started learning from my seniors or those with more experience at technical side, also trying to consider on my soft skills to lead them rather than manage them. Jawad Chuktai says that give them due importance, don't ignore them, make team realize their position, make them team leader, maybe next to yourself. Anil Dhanji emphasized that give them importance. Very interesting remark has been made by Muhammad Amir, and before I conclude this, going to next book, I would just like to read his comment. Muhammad Amir says that while you manage like some 5 people and you have little knowledge about, say, for tax, in that situation you have to supervise a team member who is hired and paid for his work. In such a situation, little segment will be there which can be there where you might have lesser knowledge than the person you supervise, but the message shall always remain loud and clear that who is leading the team eventually. Usman Ashraf says that I recognize and appreciate their efforts. Asghar Mohammad Yusuf said I work in Middle East and I have come across people who have much less knowledge than us professionals, but they hold positions and we have to deal with them with respect. Very interesting thing made by Mr. Ali Beg, that while managing people, I don't think bookish knowledge is much helpful, as sometimes you need to motivate people with love, sometimes with force, and sometimes practically becoming a tough manager because we have to use their issues and challenges. So thank you everyone for participating in these questions. So let's move forward. So what are we talking next? We are talking next about the change which takes place from operational role to a managerial role. What happens is that when we start our job, when we are in a technical side or we are in the operational level, we do more and more and more. So what is the responsibility of someone who is senior? Somebody who is in a senior management cadre, their responsibility is planning, controlling, and ensuring that the company or the organization is moving in the direction where the shareholders want it to be. So, operational person might be an expert in his or her job, but in the managerial role, we need to plan, control, and get things done. So the emphasis has to be on getting things done through people. Now, I'm coming to a poll question. In your organization, do you consider the top management to be sound technically? Please focus on this question because I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just asking a question to understand what we are discussing in a better manner. In your organization, do you consider the top management to be sound technically, or you consider them to be more people managers and less technical? So you have two choices. People on the top are technical experts in my organization, or I consider that people on top are more people manager in my organization. So again, I would like to mention here that I'm not criticizing anyone. This does not mean that the people who are at the top, they don't know anything. No, not at all. The point which I'm trying to ask from you is that when we take a look at the top people, we consider them to be techies or we consider them to be people manager, like someone who is not technical expert, but they know how to manage people. They can manage people well, they can get the results, they can get things done. So what is your choice? You think that still the senior management or the people who are at the top, they are techies, they are experts in their work in the technical side, and they are not good people manager? Or you consider that the people who are at the top are more people manager in my organization? So if your answer is technical side, please select one. If your answer is that people on the top are considered people managers, please select 2. So I would request you to please cast your poll. How do you think or consider that the people in your organization are actually like what is their outlook? Do you consider them to be techies or do you consider them to be people managers? So if your answer is yes, please click on 1. If your answer is no, or you think that there are more people manager, please click on 2. So we have got 2 questions, and again very interesting results, I would say. Mr. Haroon, would you like to share the results with us?
Yes, the results are already on the screen. 53% people have said that people on the top are technical experts, and 47, almost neck to neck. They're saying
Yes.
47%.
Yeah, so we have got a very balanced audience, I would say. That you see, most of the people think that the top people are technical experts. 47% think, or they are of the view, or they are telling us that people are more people manager in my organization. Now this is something very interesting. Why this is interesting? Because generally speaking, people who are owners or those who are at the top are better in their people management because they need to get things done from other people. So I think that yes, people on the top are technical experts. They are there because of their technical knowledge, because their technical education, because their technical qualification. At the same time, they need to be good people manager. So how will you deal with those people who know more than you? And we have discussed it at length when participants have shared their experiences with us. First, we need to recognize that when we have to deal with the situation, when the people whom we supervise know more than us, we are not alone. This is not the first time that this situation is happening. Second, we need to talk to people on individual basis. And you know, individual psychology is different from the group psychology. If you go to a person, discuss with him or her on one-to-one basis, the responses of that interaction would be different from the behavior which the same person may exhibit in the group. Because in group, some people don't like to speak up. Some people just wait and watch to see the direction in which that group is going. They just don't want to make themselves being heard when they are in group. So we need to talk to people on individual basis. As somebody said in our while answering to our question, that we need to ask questions to let them share their experience. So the body of knowledge also says, then people say that even if you have to ask dumb question, feel free to ask. There is nothing as dumb. You always ask to get clarification or to learn more. So there is no point in not asking. So feel free to ask. And having said that, we need to educate people to see big picture, where their efforts are going to lead. And it is said that together everyone achieves more. When we discuss in a team, when we develop our team, when we have those people who know more than us, that might be a blessing for us, so that we should not be making some mistakes which we may have made. Because there are people who are experienced, they share their experience, and then we have to decide, we have to use our analytical capabilities to see how can we use the experience in our team, our technical knowledge, and our analysis. So this is something which we need to consider. So here I need to ask you a very small question. Have you heard this? When you want to do something, someone says, this will not work here. We have tried it before, this will not work. That's not the way things are done here. You can try, but you will fail. So how have you dealt with such situation? First, I would like to ask you to share your answers with us. My question is, have you dealt with a situation when you have faced any of the above, when people tell you that we have tried this earlier and we have failed? And then you say, no, I need to try it. You try and you get better results. So if this thing has happened, please share your experience. That have you ever faced this situation when people have told you, in your organization that, my dear, this is not going to work. That's not the way we are. That's not the way we work here. You don't know anything about it. This is bound to be fail. So if you have faced any situation, please share with us that how did you deal with that. Mohammad Fahim Chaudhary says that, yes, I heard, but I tried in my own way and got appreciation at the end. So the experience which we have from the audience, one of them, is that yes, such situation happen. But does that mean that you have never faced this situation? Can you please share your experience? You have not heard this, like, let me rephrase that. Have you ever heard that this will not work? Fatma Asghar Bhatti says, yes, it happened, but I tried and got it done. Hafiz Mohammad Shehzad Munir said, yes, I faced this situation, tried to convince my senior that I will get it done, and I got it done. Excellent. So we have people who are saying, Usman Mohammad Ashraf says that I have heard this and then I did it on my own way. Shehbaz Maktoum said that yes, and I asked them to experience in detail and they analyzed the reason behind failure, and then we made necessary changes. A very good and interesting approach, that what we say that a bend in the road is not end of the road. So you need to analyze what has not worked in the past, make necessary change and do it again. So Jawad Chugtai has a different view. He says that I tried, I was really confident to bring the change and being a new manager, but did not get support from my team and higher management. This is a very important point which Jawad has raised. That even if you try and you don't get support, that thing might not get done, but you don't need to stop at that time. You need to think again, focus on result and see how can you get it done. It happens. It happens many a time that you do a thing which does not work out that time, that point in time, and then you do it again and you succeed. Let me give you an example of an insurance agent. I learned a very good thing from him and I would like to share with you. He is one of the top insurance sales agent of one of the top leading insurance companies in Pakistan. So once when we met in a seminar and I learned from him that he's topping his territory and he's earning so much, he's selling his insurance door to door corporates, and he is one of the most praised insurance agent. So I asked him, sir, how can you make such kind of sale when people consider that in insurance world it's really difficult to make sales? He gave me a very interesting answer. He said that, Malik, when somebody says no to me, no, N-O, I consider that he has told me that not over, try again. These are very interesting words which I learned from him. He said that whenever somebody says no, N-O, no, I consider that to be not over. And I keep on trying, I keep on pursuing, I go again and again and again. And the same thing which I learned from one of the seminars of Zig Ziglar, one of the top-notch sales guy, he says that if you approach a person again and again and again, usually in the 9th attempt, he or she is going to say you yes. This is human psychology, that people don't say yes first time, second time, third time, but if you're consistent, if you're after them, if you are doing your work again and again and again, it happens that that ice breaks. Some things which we don't consider doable at one point in time becomes doable maybe in another point in time. So we need to be persistent. Persistency and consistency is the word. Imran Khan says that in audit we heard these type of situation, but we complete our work till end. Khurram Adil says that people generally tend to stick with established way of doing things, and this is the reason people resist change. Wakarul Hassan says, I reviewed the situation when they applied the method and then I evaluated why it failed. Then I took all these stakeholders on board and then I applied it successfully. Muhammad Iqbal Sethi says that yes, I have heard this and I told to my management I did it before but I failed. Do you have any other way to do it? So this is very important. Do you have any other way to do it? So this thing happen and these things do take place. People do have their vested interest, they resist change. But as I mentioned, that we need to be consistent. We need to make sure that we are able to get things done our way, and change is difficult, and we are going to talk about it in a couple of minutes. Change is difficult, but we need to make sure that we get it across. So when we talk about other things, when we say that yes, what's next, why people resist change? People resist change because they consider that as a manager you are young, and in managerial role we need to see somebody with gray hairs. People who are working in an organization may have a fear of unknown. They are not happy in dealing with the situation and the circumstances which they have not delivered, they have not dealt with earlier. People may fear failure and they want to consistently do what they are doing. So there are a couple of approaches in life, I would say. One approach is to keep on doing same thing again and again and again and keep on getting same results again and again. But if you are convinced that you need to get better results, you are convinced that you need to get better efficiency, you are convinced that yes, I need to get something more, then you need to change your approach. And let me give you a very practical example of this webinar. When we conduct our workshops, because we are a training company, we conduct our workshops regularly, how many people can we reach at one point in time? In one workshop, we can reach 25, 30, 40 people, and over that, it's not a workshop, it becomes a seminar. And in seminar, you can get a couple of 100 people, I would say. Now, using this technology of webinar, we actually changed the way we are doing things, and results are in front of you. We are sharing our knowledge across the border. At the same time, we get 1,000 registration in a program. We get 600 to 700 people who are attending these webinars and learning from them. We get people from across the area who are sharing their knowledge. So what is that? This is something which came out of somebody's desire that we need to reach more people. We need to get our message towards the audience across the borders. Somebody said that yes, we need to change the way we are conducting our physical workshops. And then it came that how are we going to do it digitally? And that's why we are here. Like, you are listening to this webinar, you are asking your questions, we are sharing our experience, I am sharing my presentation with you, I'm sharing my knowledge with you, you are sharing your knowledge with me, and this all is happening digitally and electronically without our physical presence. So we got a very effective results, the costs got down, the number of participants increased. Why? Because somebody said that let's try a new approach. Let's try to do something different. So people do resist change. When things come in, something which is new, and we are not accustomed of that thing, the first priority is let it go. So one quote which I really loved when I was preparing for this discussion: old ways won't open new doors. Old ways won't open new doors. So if you want to open a new door, you need a new way. So this is something that we need to be very clear about. And the first question is, why do we want change? What is the objective which we are looking at to achieve? What are the results which we think we are going to get as a result of that change? Then there is another interesting thing. The idea which we are trying to implement, is it our own idea, or is that idea being imposed on us by somebody else? We have to own the idea as our own idea, and then we would be comfortable from the result which we are going to get. It's a very interesting thing to discuss now, which we generally don't talk very openly. What can go wrong? What can possibly go wrong? If I take an initiative, if I say that yes, I am going to try this differently, I am going to challenge the traditions, I am going to try a new approach, what can possibly go wrong? We need to think that very clearly in our mind, and I would suggest even if we can write that in bullet points, we should, so that we are prepared for a worst case scenario. It is said that do your best, but be prepared for the worst. I'm not saying that you need to focus on worst, not at all. Once we jot down that the maximum issues or the maximum problems or the maximum worst possible scenario are these 5-6 things, then we are mentally prepared to deal with them. And then my question comes in, when we jot it down, when we say that yes, we know that these things can possibly go wrong, then how are we going to overcome the problems when something goes wrong? As it was mentioned by many of you, that you took all stakeholders on board. At times you did not find support, at times you did find support, at times you tried and you failed, at times things worked. So this happens because we are talking about the practical world. Every person has got his or her different scenario, different environment. Having said that, we need to be very clear when we talk about change. If that is my idea, then I own it. I anticipate positive results. I need to be clear that as a result of this change, we are going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 benefits. And if something worse happens, what can that be? And as a result of change, what do you want? What is the final result? Excuse me. And this is another very interesting and important quote. It says, change nothing and nothing changes. Change nothing and nothing changes. Another important question to ask when we are going through the change phase is, what support do we need from our boss or from our colleague? If we are operating in an organization, if we are operating in an environment where there are people, then we need to deal with them. We need to deal with our boss, we need to deal with our colleagues, we need to deal with our subordinates. And that is the manner in which we get things done from them. So how can we deal with those people who resist change? And before I go to this slide, I would like to ask you, can you tell me how can we deal with the people who resist change? My question to you is, how can we deal with the people who resist change? How would you deal with those who resist change, who are not happy to be part of the change? What would you do? So my question to you is, tell me, how would you deal with people who resist change? Ali Beg says through training. Okay, that's one thing, by building capacity. What else? Talha Saeed has said, all my tries have failed. So Talha, let's try that after this session, you make another attempt with a force and you will succeed, inshallah. Ali Beg says that use force, and he also says that salary increment or make them participate. So you see, the answers which we are getting are very interesting, that we need to get people engaged. Muhammad Fahim Chaudhary says, justify to others that at the end of the day, it will benefit them and it is being done for common goals. Isa Malik says, tell them how change would be helpful. Fatma Asghar says, tell them the benefit of the approach you are going to take. Imran Khan says, by informing them about benefit of change, you can handle them. Abdul Manan Mirza says, through motivating conversation with them. Hafiz Muhammad Shehzad says, try to convey them the importance of what you want to do and explain the idea in brief. Ali Beg adds that make them understand that it will make their work easy. This is very, very interesting point, that you need to put yourself in the shoes of other and look from the different eyes. People are very different. In a very interesting book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen R. Covey says that once a person went to an optician. He says that there is some problem in my vision, I cannot see clearly. So what did optician do? He just took out his glass and he gave it to that person who came to him. He said, sir, please wear these glasses. He said, no, I cannot wear your glasses. He said, no, sir, you are not understanding my point. These glasses work perfectly for me. Once you wear them, these will be perfect for you. He says, no, please listen to me. My eyes are not that weak. I cannot use your glass. This is the point, that every person needs a different treatment. Every person needs a different glass. Every person has a different perception about the world around him or her. Ibrahim Tariq says that through counseling and building confidence, Jawad Chugtai has given a very interesting suggestion. He says that make it part of their bonus scheme. I wish your organization can be so generous. Shehbaz Makhdoom says, don't tell them the benefit, show them the difference. Now this is very important, that besides telling, we need to keep on working to show that change does work. Hassan Samir says that first, I refer them to the book, Who Moved My Cheese. Thank you, Hassan, for that suggestion. It's a very interesting small book which we can read very easily. There are a couple of videos as well, and I have put that on my blog as well. So you can take a look on the book, Who Moved My Cheese. It's a very interesting story about 4 mice who always talked about change. And 2 of them actually started working towards change, and 2 of them resisted change. So it's a very interesting read. Thank you, Hassan, for that suggestion. And he says that I referred them to the book Who Moved My Cheese, and once they read it through, I motivated them and showed them bigger picture. So I would pass the experience of Hassan Sami to all of you, that the book is really good. You can read summary on my blog, Who Moved My Cheese. It's a very interesting book on change management. Ali Beg has added, people tend to accept change more easily when they are part of the process. Thank you, Ali, for this suggestion. We need to make people part of the process. The process. It happens that at times change is imposed. Management says that yes, this is something which has come from the top and you have to do it because we are saying you have to do it. So this is something which we need to keep in mind, that we need to engage people. We need to make them part of the process, and we need to make them realize that the result, Johari Lal says, that we need to make people realize that the results will be in the interest of the people and ultimately the benefit will flow to them. Fahad Khalil says there's some sort of benefit, mostly monetary or some important role. Wakarul Hassan says become buddy of them and dig out their views, plan change by accommodating their views. Excellent. Farhan Zaka added that tell them first the personal benefit and secondly the company's benefit. This is a very interesting observation. It is said that it is in management terms, it's called WIIFM. What's in it for me? WIIFM. What's in it for me? Why would I work on this project? Why would I not resist change? You tell me what's in it for me. Why should I attend this webinar? Is it going to be helpful? Or is it just going to be something which is theory and I don't like it? Would I be able to participate? Is somebody going to listen to my views? So that is where we need to tell people that look, change is for good. Change is for growth. And one thing which one of my mentors, Bert Goldman, remarked, very interesting remark. He said that everything which grows certainly has gone through the phase of change. Everything which has gone through the phase of change. See the plants, growth means change. See children who keep on growing, they change. Everything around you which has shown signs of growth has actually changed from one stage to the another. And Faisal Yusuf has said that it depends whether the recipient is your boss or subordinate. Yes, certainly it matters. Ali Asgar Muhammad Yusuf said at a point in time you may have to adopt an authoritarian role, but it may have repercussion because in long term your relation with your employees might suffer. Khurram Adil says changes methodology should be inclusive rather than exclusive, which create disengagement. Yes, certainly Khurram, thank you for that remark. Zunair Jalal says some change result staff cutting. So staff job has to be secured before making a change. Yes, Zunair, that is part of the life. Abdul Manan Mirza said that in our organization actually it is forced. So once somebody force, how would that work? This is very interesting and important. Ali Beg said, and I agree with you because change is only constant thing in the world since the start of the world until end of the world. People just need to understand that change is constant. So thank you everyone for your remark and your valuable suggestion. I respect what you have mentioned. How we deal with people when they resist change. Very, very important and interesting question. First, I would suggest talk to them individually. Talking to them openly with your heart, communicating with them is bound to solve many of your issues. Many of your issues. Second suggestion is involve people. It is said that no involvement, no commitment. If you involve people, only then they are going to be committed. Otherwise, they say, what's in it for me? Why should I be bothered? Why should I take care? I'm just being paid for the work I'm doing and I'm not going to even think about anything else than my job description. So another thing which most of you actually mentioned, listen to worries and concerns of the people. We need to listen. It is said that we have got 2 ears and 1 tongue. So we need to listen twice and speak once. But at times we don't follow this. So a very practical tip is to listen more, think more, analyze more, and then once you have done all your thinking, all your listening, then make decision. And acknowledge difficulties, but sell the benefits. We need to sell the benefits of the change. And one of the reasons people resist change is because they focus on what they have to give up instead what they are going to gain. So it's pain pleasure principle actually, that why should I change? I will leave lot of things, but I need to focus on lot of gains. When I was starting my business, by leaving my secure job, a very good job, many people told me, what are you doing? It's a comfortable, secured environment and you are getting good salary, stick to it. I said, yes, you are right. I have to give up a lot of things, but I think that the gains would be more than what I'm going to give up in longer run. So we need to focus on our gains. We need to focus on what we are going to get as a result of that change. We need to focus on the betterment aspects of that change. So with this, we are done with the first segment, and that is what happens when we become manager, why people resist change, and a couple of things to talk about dealing with change. Before I start my next subtopic, may I request, if you have any questions, please feel free to write here so that we can just take your questions, and then we move to the next topic, which is very interesting topic of how to deal with people. So if there is any question you want to ask, kindly write them down about the first topic which we discussed. And the first topic was what happens when you become manager, how your role gets changed, why people resist change, how we deal with change. So if there is any question, kindly ask. Shehbaz Makhdoom says, please also talk about how to manage people when you are in teaching role. Okay, specifically teaching student in university environment and also as a corporate trainer. Very interesting question, Shehbaz Makhdoom sir. We need to understand our students, that what motivates him or her, why he or she is actually pursuing that course. In many trainings, I have practically witnessed that companies send people, they just come in, they are sitting down, not knowing what will help them. Trainer is getting there, telling you blah, 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 they just go. Forget it. This is something which will work because their company has paid for their training. They are there because of the restriction, because they have to be there. But, excuse me, but what I have done practically is to make sure that there is value addition when we talk about training or we talk about classroom, whether they are students in our class or whether they are people who are participating in our training. Let me put it very simply. Why would you attend my webinar on managing people? If there is no benefit of that, you should not invest your time in this. My point is that after attending this session, you will be able to know more about managing people. You would be able to know more about the resources from where you can consult. You will share the experience of those who are taking part in this webinar. I firmly believe that we learn by doing things, when we apply things. And there is a very interesting quote that we can learn from everything, everywhere, in any situation. It's an excellent quote by Mushtaq Ahmed Yusuf, a very famous, humorous writer. He says that even the clock which is stopped at any one point in time, like there is a wall clock which is stopped at, I would say, 4 p.m. Mushtaq Ahmed Yusuf says that clock which is stopped at one point in time will be right 2 times in 24 hours, because in 24 hours there will be 2 times when that broken clock will be right. So we need to learn from these things. We need to think how can we apply, and we need to think how can we put our point across to those students. Anil Danji says that how should we handle people who are not at all willing to accept change. Anil, I would say they don't use the word change. This word change, this raises triggers in everybody's mind. You see, the word change is associated with the fear of unknown. So instead of saying that we are going to pursue change, we need to think how we present our case. We need to think about the benefits. We need to think that as a result of that change, what are we going to achieve? So instead of telling people that, look, we are not going to do it this way, this is all wrong, and hold on, we are going to do things in a different way. No, hold on. Later on when we are going to discuss, I am going to actually discuss this thing in detail, that we need to put our point in a very coherent, inclusive manner. And Wakarul Hassan is also asking how to calm myself down. I am promoted to a level where next level is board. And you are saying that, Vakar, just retype your question. I'm not little clear on that. How to calm down myself? Are you saying that how to calm down myself? Please let me know about it again. Sayyid Nazim Abbas has mentioned that change is life. Sticking to old may be golden saying, but it can lead us to destruction when that old is not adopted over the period of time. Furqan Saab says there are people in organization who are going to lose more than gain. How can we motivate them? This is very interesting. This is a very interesting point, that in organization it may happen that people may lose something instead of gaining something. Now we need to think about the process or the big picture, that a job is not end of the world in itself. We need to think about those people in a physical, mental, and a spiritual environment. That are they concerned with that job only, or they think that this job is part of our life, and in our life we are going to gain in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas if we adjust to this kind of thing. Mr. Vakar says there is anxiety in myself. Vakar, we are going to deal with that when I'm going to talk about a technique called mindfulness. So there I'm going to answer your question, that how to control your stress and how to calm yourself down. Mohammad Bakir says how to make subordinate believe in you, support you, and be part of your objective. We are going to discuss that in detail when we are going to come to dealing with people, and I'm just going to start that. Muhammad Ashraf is saying that how to create respect. We are going to deal with that. Mr. Hafiz Muhammad Shehzad Munir has mentioned that my boss is not technical and it's hard to convince them about change. How should I deal with them? Very interesting question, and thank you everybody for your question. Nazim Saab said, can you please elaborate for me what the role of internal audit in change? Very interesting. I will just answer this question in a couple of minutes. Internal auditor is supposed to be neutral, by the way. Thank you, Naveed. You see, if I consider that my boss is not going to change and he's very particular about the way he or she has been trained, I would again like to mention here that we need not to drumbeat about the word change. We need to understand what our boss is thinking, and we need to present our case when it matches with the language of boss. And I'm going to address this question in 2-3 minutes shortly. I've got a full dedicated discussion on how to deal with boss, so I hope there it will be answered. One question about internal audit. Recently, we organized a training on masterclass on best practices in internal audit, and head of audit of a very large multinational company was there, telecom company, biggest telecom company of Pakistan, and he mentioned that now internal auditors are being engaged, or they are doing culture audits. What is the culture of our organization? Is it a dictatorial culture? Is it a democratic culture? What are the values we are exhibiting? You might be following a couple of cases in which people got fired because the values which they propagated were not the values of their organization. So there is a full role which internal audit has to play when we talk about culture of the organization. When we talk about the respect which we give to people, when we talk about change management, when we talk about new projects, how are we taking that thing? So internal audit has a bigger role when it comes to cultural audit. So now we move to the next segment of our discussion, I would say, and thank you everyone again for your lively participation in polls and sharing your knowledge and experience. Now here we go. May I request everybody to look at this picture and answer me the
Malek sir,
question.
can we have can we have a 10-15 minutes break?
Yes, sure. You want to break before we start? Sure. 10 minutes break, I would say.
Yes, I think 10 minutes should be sufficient, and people can have a comfort break or can go say their prayers in the meanwhile. And
Sure.
while at the same time, I can suggest some activity for people who are going to sit along, and they could maybe watch a video or look at the resources that you're going to share with them in the last slide.
Yes, I would suggest if people have some time to work out, please go to TED.com, TED.com, and type how to manage difficult people. There would be a couple of videos which you are going to find out. TED is a very interesting forum on technology, education, and new learning. And they do get good people around the world who speak on different topics and very small targeted speeches. You will find excellent material on communication. You will find great material on technology. You will find great material about what's happening in our surroundings and its impact on our lives. So if people have time of this 10 minutes break, they can go to TED.com, TED.com, and they can just type in dealing with difficult people and listen to the videos which are going to come in, and we'll be coming back in 10 minutes.
Great, thank you very much, Malek sir. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Uh, Hello all, welcome back. I hope we can start now. The screen is there, and as you can see, I simply asked that how many people can you see in this picture, and our answer varies from 3 to 7. Somebody has said 3, most of you have said 5, 3, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Unable to see picture. Okay, let's see it again. 4 people, 5, 5, 7, 5, 5, 5. So a lot of 5. Okay, let me check this managing people on TED.com. I'll get back to you on that. And we have got 5. So if you see, we got answers where people can now see and observe that this picture is made in a manner that you can see one person here, one person here, and there is a lady here, and there is a person here, and there is a lady here as well. So we can see many people in this picture. These are called images which are crafted in a manner that everyone see them differently. Let me show you another picture. So what do you see in this below picture? May I ask you a question? What do you see in this picture? Can you see this? If I'm just closing this question bar. Can you see this picture? Now, can you see this picture? May I ask you to tell me what can you see in this picture? This is a very interesting picture in black and white mode, and you might be able to see a musician who is just playing music through a pipe, but I want to request you to see with a focus, and you might see something else. So let me tell you another way of looking into it. First, focus on the black side, like a person with a long nose, a pipe, shoes, and then shift your focus on the white side. Can you see it differently? Can you see something which you were not seeing earlier in a white manner? If you focus on the white, can you see something different? Yes. So now people are seeing a lady face, a woman. Someone has said still no. Shehbaz, I would request you to see it with little concentration again. First, focus on black side. Once you have done the black side, now focus on the white side. These are the eyes, one eye, second eye, nose, mouth, and this is chin. So just focus on the white portion and you will see a lady. So in this picture, those who focus on the black part will see a person playing music, while those people who are going to focus on the white part are going to see a lady. So this is something in which I say that you see what you focus upon. And let me review the answers of the question. Yes, now people are, oh very good, thank you Shehbaz, now you can see it. Now people are saying a lady as well, which is in white. So this is a picture which I wanted to show, and then I will tell you why I'm showing this. My last question related to the people thing, and that is you need to guess the age of this lady. This is an exercise which is used in many MBA classes, in many psychology classes, when people are teaching about perception and thinking and mindset. May I request you to please guess the age of this lady. If any one of you has done this exercise earlier, you may share that you know about it. If you are doing it for the first time, May I request you to guess the age of the this lady which you can see. So Irfan Ali says, very interesting. Irfan Ali and Sayyid Nazim are of the view that she is young, 16 years, and Mr. Talla is of the view that she is 40 years. How can this be? Can you see the answers on the screen? It's so interesting to see a 60 and a 16 and a 40 and a 35 and a 60 plus and around 50, and there is 60, and someone has said there are two women. Excellent. Unable to judge. Any idea, Imran? Shehbaz Saab has said 40, somebody has said mid-teenager. So, this is an exercise which has been adopted from the book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. This exercise is also available in a couple of management books which are taught in MBA session. There are two ways of looking at this picture. One is to look at the lady without seeing this portion. I would say just don't see this as a nose and an eye. See this as a mouth, this as a nose, and an old lady who is looking towards her left side. I would repeat that because those of you who are seeing a young lady are seeing it differently, while those who are seeing it an old lady, and you can see from the answers, see, there are people who are seeing two ladies, somebody is saying 70 plus, somebody is saying young lady. So just try to see two ladies. There are two ladies which have been merged in this one picture. One is relatively young, one is relatively old. The young lady, you need to take a look without considering this portion into the, don't take this thing into account. Just consider that your picture finishes here, and this is a young lady seeing on that side, back side. So once you see that these are her hair, black hair, this is the feather coming out of the cap, this is the nose, this is the eyelid. Now can you see the young lady? Can you see a young lady? See, a young lady who is actually seeing on the back side. Let me show you that way. And now, just forget about this. Just think this as a mouth, this as a nose, this as eye, these as hair. So you will see an old lady. This is a very important exercise when we talk about perception of the people. And to conclude this exercise, that why am I showing you these pictures? Everyone has got their own viewpoint to see the world. Everyone has a perception, a consideration, a thinking about the world in which one lives. Somebody can see old lady immediately, somebody takes time, somebody can see young lady immediately, some people take time, but you need to focus. And when we talk about dealing with people, I would like to mention here that one size does not fit all. It's not possible that you can fit everyone in the same box. Even if you try hard and hard and hard, you won't be able to make sure that one size or one approach will help to solve every question. That's simply not possible. Otherwise, you would have a standard operating procedure. You just read it, you apply it, and you are done. So what I want to infer from this discussion? I want to infer from this discussion that different approaches are needed for different people. We need to adapt the approach according to the people we are dealing with. You see, if somebody has got his or her training in a different background and someone has got their training in a different background, you cannot compare them. Even what motivates one person may not be motivating factor for the next person. So we need to be very cognizant of this fact that when we deal with people, we deal with human beings, and no two humans are different. People act, people behave according to their training, according to their environment, according to their education. So we need to be very clear that what works in one scenario with one person may not work with this different person in a different scenario. Even one thing which has worked with one person at one point in time may not work with same person on different point in time, because the context has changed, the place has changed, or the time has changed. So we need to be very clear in our mind that we need to have a framework, that the approach need to be different. So my question to you now, and when we are coming to dealing with people, is, and this is a poll question, do you consider your boss to be helpful? If yes, then answer is 1. If you don't consider that your boss is not helpful, you can't go to him or her for discussion, your answer is no. So let me put this question again. Do you have full support from your boss when you need? The answer is yes, my boss is very helpful. 2, I cannot think of discussing about my issues with my boss. So this is a poll question. I would request you to please cast your vote here and give me the poll answers. The question is, do you have full support from your boss when you need it? 1, my boss is very helpful. 2, I cannot think of discussing about my issues with my boss. So please answer this as a poll question. So my question is, and this is a poll question, and now the poll is in front of you. 1, my boss is very helpful. 2, no, I don't consider my boss is helpful, and I cannot think of discussing my issues with him. And this would be very interesting to see the mix of our participants who consider that yes, your boss is helpful, and those of you who don't consider your boss to be helpful. If you consider that yes, my boss is helpful, I can go to him or her, have a word, have a discussion, I would say, a detailed conversation, then your answer should be 1. If you think that sorry, I cannot go and discuss, or I cannot go and have a word, your answer should be no. So may I request to please provide your answers. If you consider that your boss is helpful, please click 1, which is yes, my boss is helpful. If the boss is not helpful, please click 2, that my boss is not helpful. So we would be just closing it shortly. If your boss is helpful, click 1. If your boss is not helpful and you cannot go and have a word or discussion, please click 2. So my question is very simple. You consider your boss to be helpful, or you don't consider your boss to be helpful? If your answer is 1, you consider your boss to be helpful, please click 1. If you don't consider your boss to be helpful, please click 2. So we just close our poll, and may I request Harun Saab if you can display our results.
Yes, the results are in front of the audience. 75% feel that their boss is very helpful. 25% say that they can't discuss issues with their bosses.
So this is a very interesting observation, Harun Saab. Do you consider this to be interesting, that most of the people in our audience are happy with their bosses?
Yeah, that's a good sign actually, and I was surprised.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. So you see, this is a very interesting result to note, that people are actually happy with their bosses, contrary to the perception that bosses are not helpful. So 75%. Yes,
For the
Arun sir.
25, for the 25%, I think it's very important that they try to develop that level of comfort with their bosses. At ACCA, there is one approach that is, I mean, coming from the head office, we are required to adopt that. That is being very, very candid at work. Candid would mean we have to express ourselves openly. If we have disagreement with, let's suppose, a decision or a suggestion being made, we have to openly express ourselves. And bosses or managers are required to very keenly and patiently listen to to the comments or suggestions made by people. So that's very important. That I think in an organization is a very congenial environment between managers and the workers.
Thank you, Arun sir, for that. So what we infer from here that at least boss management should not be part of this, and we need to discuss more about our work environment, where we have to discuss about our subordinates, and we will discuss about managing boss, obviously. But it's a very healthy sign to note that your bosses are helpful. So do go and thank them and tell them that in today's webinar you mentioned that your boss is helpful to you. Uh, so for 25%, or in a scenario where it may happen that your boss may not be helpful to you, why is that happening? Why is that happening? That is happening that if boss continuously believes that what you are doing is wrong, there is some kind of self-protectionism somewhere. Boss is too technical and not good at managing people, or there is a communication breakdown between you and your boss, then it might happen that your boss is not supportive. However, having said that, it's a very healthy sign to note that in our poll, people consider their bosses to be helpful. So now, when we deal with our bosses, what are the options available? That is the first thing which we have to think. And secondly, how can we present our ideas more successfully? And this is very important, where we talk about presenting our ideas. And this is where I am going to have some word with you. There are two things which we need to consider, that your boss needs to look good at work. So how can I make my boss look good in front of others? How can I help my boss? So from confrontation, we need to get into an understanding mode. That initially, if we confront our boss, if we take things head on, that won't work. We need to find out an approach where we can find a mutual common ground to work upon. And I referred about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. When you have time, please try to read more about this thing, because NLP is the way you talk, you present yourself, the way you use the word, the way you feel. And let me give you one example. It is said through this neuro-linguistic programming techniques that people are either audio, they talk in the sense of listening, they understand more when they talk, they like to talk with people before making any decision, or there are people who think in imaginative mind. They visualize things, like they think visually. There are people who think in an audio manner, there are people who think in a visual manner, and then there are people who are more sensitive, that they think by attaching their feeling to one situation or the other. And the approach for visual, auditory and kinesthetic is different. Like we need to take an approach which work at that point in time, that environment, by learning that the person with whom we are dealing with, is he or she a visual person, an auditory person, and a kinesthetic person. Let me give you an example. How would you determine a person is visual, audio, or kinesthetic? If a person used more words which are related to visualization, that I can draw from what you are telling me, in my view, I am of the view. These are all words which represent that a person is making a mental image when they talk. When we talk about the person who have got the audio thinking, their language is more of talking, discussing. They are more fond of meetings, meeting people face to face. Their word is, let's have a discussion. What can you tell me about it? I need to listen to people before I make decision. So you need to understand the personality when we talk about categorization or understanding the key characteristic of any person, and particularly your boss. And there are people whom we can judge that they are sensitive, they feel things more than visualizing and auditory. So I would suggest you that do read about NLP. It's a very interesting, very applicable way of influencing, convincing, and pursuing people. And there are very good books available on this topic. There are a couple of good lectures available. So I would recommend that search about NLP more and try to see how can you apply NLP on your work. There are three things which you can do to deal with your boss. One is you go and talk to him or her. And when you talk, as Harun Saab mentioned about ACCA's policy of talking and discussing and being open at the workplace, the first thing is to give a non-judgmental description of behavior. What do we mean by that? When we talk with our boss, we need to be very clear and specific. You need not to be vague. You need to exactly pinpoint the behavior or the circumstance or the point where you felt bad. Secondly, you need to disclose your feeling. And third, you need to communicate how the behavior of the boss has affected you. So this is the way in which you communicate politely in a very non-judgmental behavior, not being a critique, but communicating in a very respectful manner, so that your feelings, your thoughts, the problems which you are facing are actually communicated. And now I'm going to discuss about the ways to deal with your executives when motivation drops. It happens. What are the signs which show you that the motivation has dropped at the workplace? People start taking less interest in their jobs. People arrive late at their work. People start looking at watches, clocks, and track time to go back to their home. They start delays in their work. It may happen that they may let you know, or their bosses know, that they are not happy and they are looking for another job. So first you need to look for the signs of demotivation. That why or what shows you that people are not motivated. I would like to make a statement, and it says that what motivates one person may not motivate another person. And now I would like you, my participants of this webinar, tell me what motivates you. My question is simple. Tell me what motivates you at work. What motivates you? The first thing which Mr. Tala Saeed is saying is salary. Uzma Banu is saying good environment. Sayyid Nazim is saying power and strength. So you see the three answers which we got, every answer is different from the other answer. Environment and boss, that is motivating for some people. Valuing appreciation is motivating for people, like recognizing them. And you can see there we are getting a lot of good answers. Empowerment, mixture of environment and reward. When my boss listens to me, responsibility, challenges, balance between money and job challenge, attitude of people around me, money, type of boss, lack of job security, yes, that's a problem. Appreciation, power, monetary reward, happy people around me. Very interesting, Shehbasa. You find that your environment and the happiness around you is congenial and it affects you. Working conditions, it's very demotivating when job is no more challenging. Appreciation, yes. We have got more modes on appreciation and listening. Working condition, money, bonus, balance between work and social life, job employment. So you see, I wrote only 5 reasons and we have got many answers where all of you have cited different reasons of motivation. Now my next suggestion is, thank you people for your kind sharing of experience, supporting word and conversation, involving ways to get jobs done effectively. Yes, you're perfectly right. So we can see that when we talk about motivation, people have different reasons to be motivated. It's one thing to know about the reason, and it's second thing how to embed that motivation in the way you want them to work for you, or the way you want to get results, or you want to get things done. So why this exercise, or why are we discussing this? Everybody is motivated to do something. The problem is that they are not motivated what you want them to do, because that thing which you want them to do might not be in their framework of motivation. Like somebody is motivated by only point that my boss should listen to me. But I've got a listening boss. I'm the one who is giving my direction, and I assume that I'm a listening boss. In fact, I am not. So I might be a boss which is not appreciating people enough, and I think that I am appreciating. There are two terms which we need to understand: intent versus impact. My intent might be good. I intend to be a good boss. I intend to a person who appreciate you, but my impact might be totally different. My impact of use of that word might not be what I intended, and that might result in demotivation. So people are good, people want to do good, but their impact may or may not be according to the intention. So we need to understand how are we going to deal with unmotivated people. So here are a couple of tips for us to consider. We need to discuss behavior. We need to discuss what we actually observe. We need to share ideas, and we need to discuss alternatives. We don't need to discuss individual pinpoint things which are of personal nature. There's no need of getting personal at work. We don't need to perceive that this is happening because of this thing. We need to be very open. We need to talk about the situation that, look, I observed this matter, and that's why we are having a conversation in that. We can discuss about advice. We don't need to discuss about advice. We are not there to advise somebody about a particular thing. We can just share ideas. We are not discussing concrete answers. What we are discussing is different alternatives which a person can adopt to get out of that demotivation or less motivating factor. So I would say again that when you face a situation where a person is unmotivated, try discussing about the behavior, what you have observed, share ideas, and discuss alternatives. This is what I have been doing with my subordinates long time. That you need to show that you care for them. You need to show that you are genuinely concerned about their performance. You are genuinely concerned that they need to achieve more in life. How can you do that? That point in time when you have observed a behavior which you consider not appropriate, note down that behavior. Don't be generic, be specific. Tell them that, look, I have noted that you have come to the office late for more than half an hour for 6 days. So is there any way in which we can have a word to ensure that you come early? I'm just giving you an example. You're not going to provide any answers or solutions or advice. You're just going to share your ideas. And then it's up to that individual that he or she changes that situation. So before you try to motivate somebody else, there are two things. First, you need to be motivated yourself. If I am not motivated, believe me, I won't be able to motivate any other person. With this attitude, oh, I think you are not motivated. believe me, I'm not going to get anybody motivated at all. So first, I need to be motivated to get that spark out of me to the people with whom I'm dealing with. And secondly, I need to understand that how long I really know that person. Whether I'm perceiving I know that person, has that thing happened before? When was the last time that we had a word? So one of the things which we may consider is that we need to be clear about what we want that person to do differently. That why are we having that conversation in first place? Why are we discussing that issue in first place? What are the results which we are not getting? Some of you actually said that our team is not listening to us. They are not helping us out in meeting our deadlines. They are not motivated enough to be part of the deadline meeting when I am into that situation. So that is the place where we need to be clear that what do we need to be different and what kind of results are we talking about. How can we boost motivation? First, motivation is a two-way process. You can take a horse to water, but you cannot make that horse drink. You might have listened this before, that we can actually make effort to take the person to a situation where we are clear, we are discussing that yes, we need this behavior. We actually have a word, we suggest, we advise, or we don't suggest, we advise, but we discuss about alternatives. But at the end of the day, it's upon that person to decide. You are not going to make decision for him or her. So can you create some opportunities for that person which you consider that he or she might be behaving better? Let me give you another example. In one of the telecom companies, my colleague who was doing ACCA with me, when he joined that company, during one of the appraisal processes, boss said that I think that your performance is not good in my budgeting and planning department. So we have decided to change your function and we are now moving you to payable section. And from next week onward, you need to report to the manager who looks into payable. Once that transition was made, the function was changed. My friend told me that I started enjoying the work I was doing. And at the end of the year, the manager who was looking into payable gave me excellent rating in appraisal that you are working exceptionally well. So it might happen that a person who is not working in one function effectively might work in some other functions in a very effective manner, because it may happen that the earlier job was not of that interest to him or her. But once that job was changed, that actually motivated that person. So is it possible to build a challenge into their job? Can you consider ways to provide him or her some opportunity? Can you think how can you help the executive who is less motivated in form of counseling or job enrichment? This might be difficult, but not impossible. Once we start thinking about ways, once we start thinking about changing responsibility, we need to try and find what that person is good at. And once we have found that, it would result into a win-win situation. How to deal with a poor performer? I would like your questions before I get into this. My question is, how do you deal with a poor performer? If there is a poor performer in your team, what will you do? I repeat my question. What will you do with a person who is not performing well? He or she is in your team. What will you do? Like, I need your comments on how to deal with the person who is not performing well. What will you do? Anil Ganji said, I will coach and counsel. Imran Khan said, the poor performer will be one who is not taking initiatives. Uzma said that we will counsel. Anil also said we will counsel. Irfan says we will talk to them, we will ask for problems, we will look for a replacement. Yes, that might happen if you're not happy. We will counsel, try to encourage that person. We will counsel and discuss with them her issues. Yes, discuss with them about the issue, talk to the person and understand the problem. In private meeting, explain the issues. Yes, perfectly well. So we'll sit with him and discuss the issues, have a session, throw him out of the team. Shehbaz, that's I think one of the last things that we should be discussing or thinking, but obviously that is an alternative, that is an option, and I respect that. A poor performer is a person who is not achieving results. He or she is missing target dates, making mistakes, blaming others, getting panicked under pressure, and we have all witnessed this kind of behavior. So the next question is, why poor performance? What is the reason? It might happen that that guy or that girl is not aware that the performance is poor. They are working the way they are. They are just openly doing, and nobody has actually told him or her that, look, your performance need to be up to this mark. So that is the point where counseling is needed, discussion is needed, coaching is needed, and we are going to come on coaching a little moment hereafter. That person may not have the capability, that's possible. He has not been confronted before, nobody has told him. Why poor performance? Three key reasons. It might be you, the supervisor, it might be the work, or it might be the individual himself or herself. How can you be responsible for the poor performance of your subordinates? You might have set standards which are very high, or the work he or she is finding that very difficult to deal with or very difficult to do, or there are problems or issues with that individual, maybe due to personal reason, due to some health issues or whatever. So now, here is my poll question to you. What do you consider should be done to deal with a person with poor performance? One, I will counsel him or her to improve performance. I will prefer not to counsel him, but fire him or her so that all others perform better. So we are taking this poll. We are on this poll now. We are, may I request you to cast your votes. Question is in front of you. What do you consider should be done to deal with a person with a poor performance? You will counsel, or you will prefer not to counsel and fire? Do you consider that we need to counsel that guy or girl, or you prefer that we just fire so that that sends a precedent, an example that shows others that be careful, if you don't perform you'll be fired, we'll get rid of you? What do you think you should be doing? Counsel or not counsel and fire to set example? If you think you will counsel, your answer is one, I will counsel him, her to improve performance, or I will prefer not to counsel but fire him or her so that all other people actually perform better. So may I request you to please vote whether you will counsel or you will fire that guy. You are fired so that other take lesson and we get a culture of merit that we only retain those who perform well. What will you do? So Harun Saab, can you show us the results please? So here we go. Arun Saab, what is your comment on this?
Fantastic. I think everyone is so soft-hearted, and
yes.
I think the one I would have cancelled as well. In fact, let me just say that if you fire the individual, that may promote insecurity in the rest of the people.
Yeah, very, very interesting point which you have shared, Arun Saab. But things happen because we are living in practical world. So coming back to what we were discussing, that our audience, majority have considered that we will counsel, we will have a word with him or her, and we are not going to fire. So the same thing happens with us in our environment, that nobody is so harsh to get rid of us if they are not satisfied with performance. People do give us chance even. Like it happened to me when I recently qualified and I was given responsibility which was much higher, that my CEO used to tell me that, look, this is what I expect from you. These are the results which I need from you, and you need to deliver the results well in time if you want me to think good about it. So similarly, we need to counsel with people. And believe me, counseling, coaching in itself is a skill. At times, our intent may be good, but as we might not be a trained counselor, impact might not be that good. So first, we need to get to the underlying issue of poor performance. Why are we having poor performance? Secondly, we don't need to put the issue under carpet. As a manager, we are responsible for the people we lead. So you see, one thing which is very clear here, which you have mentioned in your polls, that we will counsel. But how will we counsel? What will we be counseling? What do we need to know after counseling? We need to find the point which is causing problem. What is the underlying reason of that poor performance? We need to find that. Secondly, we need to have a very open and candid discussion. However, we can fire someone or dismiss someone if even after counseling the performance is not up to the mark, or we think that the person is not actually getting to the desired standards. So we need to counsel, we need to provide opportunities, and I'm sure that most of you consider the same manner. However, once you counsel them, be specific. Be specific that this is the kind of results which we need from you, and establish timelines that by these timelines I need you to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And the last point on this slide is very important. Obtain an agreement on what needs to be done. Targets should be very clear. What help that individual needs, and a timeline. 3 things are or should be there, and it's better to have these in writing. First, what needs to be done. Secondly, what help that person need, and a timeline. And as I mentioned, we need to write it down. We need to see if we can provide support or company can provide support by any means. We need to monitor the performance, and last but not least, we need to take action as required. So you see, when we find somebody whose performance is not up to the mark, we need to counsel, we need to have a word, we need to coach, but we need to be very clear on the output expectation and the way we need to have it. So now my question to you, my friends, who are difficult individuals? We all face difficult individuals in our lives. So may I request you if you can fill in the blank. A difficult individual is one who ... So now may I request you to please fill in this blank. So a difficult individual is one who is not willing to work. ACCA trainees are difficult people to manage. Okay, that's interesting. A difficult people is stubborn and not ready to listen. A difficult people is one who is not easily convinced. A difficult people is one who is not a good listener. A difficult person is one who needs increment, bonus and promotion. So you consider Raza that person to be difficult. Okay. So we have got Sharjeel and we have got Mohammad Hussain, who is saying that those people who are not good listener are difficult people. Those people who are difficult, who are careless, those people who are difficult, who are unwilling to change, people who are not open, who are reluctant, who are unable to adapt, people who are full of ego, who are not interested in change, people who are not serious. So we are getting a lot of good answers here, and you have actually covered most of what I wanted to cover, that who are those people whom we consider to be difficult people. And if you see, there would be a pattern here, that people who don't take interest in their job, who are not listening, who are not open, who are not willing to change, who stick to their viewpoints, who have got ego, people who are not taking responsibility, we consider all of them to be difficult people. So when we talk about difficult people, the next question which definitely come to our mind would be, who is that person and how to deal with that, and we are going to discuss that. A difficult individual is a person who has a lot of disagreements, who is non-cooperative, who is unpredictable, who get mood swings. You cannot predict a mood when he or she would be angry or happy, or what would make them happy or angry, and how they are going to behave in an environment. And one who is not a good team player, and most of things which you have covered in your answers, I really appreciate that you have said that people who don't transfer their knowledge to others, who are not willing to listen, who are not willing to accept their mistakes, who are not disciplined. So these are all answered to the question that whom do we consider to be difficult people. Now the question comes in, another example of difficult people is those who say yes but do nothing. They are doing minimum work, they let people down, and they make unwarranted remark in the workplace which are inappropriate, which should not be considered. So we do consider that these people are difficult people. Now a very interesting and a key question. Why is a person difficult person? A very interesting and thought-provoking question, that why is that person a difficult person? He or she is troubled by something outside the work. If he or she is not interested in the job, not happy with you, dislikes being supervised, like I don't like somebody supervising me, that's why I have got that attitude due to which you consider me to be difficult, he or she may be working on a wrong perception. And now we come to the key part, how to deal with difficult people. Now let me tell you a very catchy phrase of management. It's not the people who is difficult, it's the behavior. In NLP, I referred earlier, it is considered that every person behaves the way he or she should behave, because their training, their education, their environment, their way of thinking is different. So there are some presuppositions in NLP when you deal with people on that level. And the first thing is, every person is right. It's very, very interesting point to think about. Every person is right because he or she behaves in the way in which they have learned to behave. You may not like that behavior, but that does not mean that he or she considered that to be wrong. So in a particular environment, when a person behaves, that behavior may not be what we think should be. So person is not difficult, that behavior is difficult. And if we realize this, then we start to focus on how can we change that behavior. We cannot change a person because that person has a baggage of education, technical background, family background, and all the things. But we can change that behavior if we focus upon that behavior. Think about a difficult person in your life. Was he or she difficult in a situation? What kind of behavior was that? What were the triggers of that behavior? What was your reaction? You flared up, you said, my God, I'm not going to tolerate this kind of behavior? Or can you find any pattern that your boss or your subordinates, maybe they are difficult on each Monday because they don't like to come to office on that day? Or they are difficult all the times? Or is it a particular behavior which you consider to be difficult? When you consider a behavior to be difficult, then that behavior can be changed. You cannot change a person. You can change a behavior. So identify that behavior which you find difficult and think how you feel about it. If he or she is your subordinate, then you have to show that you are in control. And somebody said that we need to remain calm down. So that is very important at workplace. Avoid showing anger or frustration. Don't lose temper. Don't get emotional. We need to work on ourselves to remain calm, relaxed, and stress-free. And I'm going to tell you a technique about that. And if you search about that, you'll find a lot of good material, and that is called mindfulness. Mindfulness is directing our attention to our experience as it unfolds. It is to train ourselves to respond very skillfully whatever is happening in our life, whether it is good or bad. Mindfulness deals with our thought process. How do we feel about others? Mindfulness helps us perform better, feel little calmer and less depressed. So I would suggest those of you who have taken time out to be part of this session, search about mindfulness and learn more about it. Mindfulness is living in a moment fully, taking recognition of your mind at all times and staying calm by using the tools which mindfulness tells us about. How to deal with difficult people? We have certain options. One, do nothing, learn to live with it, or you may confront, you may compromise, you can be aggressive, you can use your position, or you can ask for your help. So you see, there are certain options available to us when we are dealing with difficult people. We can choose to do nothing, and that is our choice. We remember I said, if you change nothing, nothing changes. So if we decide that we are going to live with that, then live with that. Then we have accepted that behavior, that that guy or girl is always difficult to deal with, and we have to live with that situation. Or we think that no, we need to have a word, we confront, we see that how can we do that, and we reach a compromise. We can be aggressive, we can use our position, or we can ask for help. There is another thing, develop our skills. It happens that once we develop our skills, we reach to a different level of dealing with people. We become more calm, we are less emotional, we can control our thoughts and emotions in a manner that we deal with the situation in a professional manner. We don't need to lose our emotions in the work environment. And we need to tell people how we feel, how their behavior has affected our behavior, and what do we want them to do differently. And this whole conversation should take place in a different environment, not in front of many people listening to it. You need to have a word on an individual basis, because I told earlier that people behave differently in group and people behave differently in an individual manner. And this is one of the things which come from mindfulness training. And this is a very small acronym of SNACK. Stop, notice, accept, become curious, and use your kindness. So you need to stop whatever you are doing, whatever thoughts you have, whatever preconceived notion you have, just stop there and just notice what is happening within myself and around me. And then, most tricky part, accept it. Accept it. We resist things. Don't resist. Just accept and think that yes, this is something which is happening. Acknowledge that thing without judgment, and then start asking questions about your experience. Start asking questions that what kind of experience and environment we are in. What am I feeling? What I need to do? What I need to get thing? What I need to do to get thing right now? And the last thing is respond to yourself and others with kindness, and observe how can you take control of things back. So this is something which is a very lengthy course, I would say, and there are a lot of trainings being offered on mindfulness. So just read a couple of things, listen to few things, and you are going to find some very good tools which will tell you. So here is a poll question. Harun Saab, may I request you to put this poll. Are you satisfied with your boss, or you are not satisfied with your boss? May I request for this poll question just to see that how many people are satisfied with their boss. If your answer is 1, you're satisfied with your boss, say yes. If you are not satisfied with your boss, say no. So if you are satisfied with your boss, simply say yes. If you think you are not satisfied with your boss, simply say no. You are not satisfied with your boss. So I just need to see the results and to see that how many of you are happy with your boss and how many of you are not happy with your boss. Because you see, we don't need to work on our perceptions. We need to work on what actually ground reality is. We need to think, are we really satisfied in our work environment with our boss, or we are not satisfied with our boss? And I hope these results will also be very interesting. So if you are satisfied with your boss, your answer is 1. If you are not satisfied with your boss, your answer is 2. So Harun Saab, let's see the results. So Harun Saab, what is your view now?
I think this is almost in line with the previous question about bosses, 70-30. So I think there are people who are not happy with their bosses. But I think during our studies, we've been trained how to put up with people, who are not exactly our personality. I think it's important to learn how to deal with, a boss who you don't like.
You see, a very interesting observation or the practical point which shows us that double than those who have said no, like 31%, more than 60% are of the view that they are satisfied with the boss, and this might be one of the reasons that you are on your job. It is said that you don't leave your job, you leave your boss. It is occasionally said that you actually don't leave your boss, you don't leave your job, you leave your boss. Because if you are comfortable with your boss, you will keep working. You'll just be relaxed and you'll be happy that my boss is considering my suggestion. For the 31%, where it was said that why boss is not considering my suggestion, she may think that you are too young, he or she may think you lack experience, he want to show that I am the boss here, or it might be due to office politics. And when we talk about these things, there are 3 things which we can actually consider. Either we avoid our boss, which is not possible. We confront our boss, might be. But the preferred way is to diffuse the situation. To start considering how to communicate your thinking, your feeling, your own thoughts with your boss in a manner which not only convince him or her, but which will help the boss to actually start listening to you. So the first thing which I would suggest is listen to the reasons which your boss gives to you. Repeat what he or she is telling you in your own words, and then add your viewpoint to that sentence. Present your viewpoint, don't keep that to your heart. Keep an open mind when you talk. Because first thing which we need to understand is we need to go and have a word. Many people don't go and have a word because they consider that this is too obvious. My boss knows it, but he's not willing to give me chance that I should actually go and talk, and he's just like that. No, don't use any preconceived notion. Just go, have a word, listen to the reason, repeat what he or she is saying, and then add your viewpoint. Be specific. Agree on common grounds, talk on behavior and not on personality, quote some instances, and again, as I mentioned, intent versus impact. Now, we are moving to the third segment of our discussion, and that is developing our people and skills among our people. So, my question to you is, what are the 2 things an effective manager should have on the table? Let me ask you, what are the 2 things an effective manager should have on his or her table? My question to you, what are the two things an effective manager should have on his or her table? So may I request for your participation in this? Two things which an effective manager, my focus is what are the two things which an effective manager should be placing on his or her table? The answer is professionalism. I am talking about physical things. The answer is, yeah, calendar and pen, to-do list and my achievements, knowledge, Imran, that is intangible. Actually, I am talking about tangible things. Targets and plan, activity control sheet, schedule of to-do list, targets, a book on how to become good manager. That was interesting, Shabazz. Vision, how can a person put vision on table? Perhaps you are talking about vision statement maybe. Follow-up work list, delegating right work to right person. So this was a question which was put in a Reader Digest, and they asked questions for a couple of months. It said that solid plan and a diary, task and related time. So a solid plan, to-do list, notepad, diary. Yes, very interesting. So an effective manager actually should have his 2 feet. Why? Because all the tasks are performed by his or her subordinates. In management, it is said that a person is effective when he or she is free to focus on getting things done from the people, and what they are doing excuse me, is reviewing, guiding, coaching, and getting things done through other people. So this was in a humorous tone actually. What you have mentioned is perfectly all right, that effective manager should just have a to-do list, a planner, whatever you consider. But in the height of the management, it is said that an effective manager is one who gets everything done from the people, and therefore his table would be very clean. So that was the point here. So you cannot develop people. You must allow people to develop themselves. So the question is, are we working in the environment where we are allowing people to develop themselves? Are we in a position that we are giving space to people to develop themselves? Or is our environment not conducive which lead people to development? Why should I send my executives to training? People are busy. There is no use of training. When a person returns from training, they have more work to do, and they are already overwhelmed with the work. These are all the excuses which people gave, that I should not and must not send that guy or girl on training because there is no point. He's already so busy. Have you heard this in your office? Experience count, there is no use of training. Why waste money on training? People will learn eventually. Like, let them try, let them make mistakes, and ultimately they are going to learn. So this happens. So my question to you, and this is a poll question, Harun Sahab, if you can put it, is it useful to send employees on training outside organization? Is it useful to send people on training outside organization? If your answer is yes, please tick 1. If you consider there is no use and it's totally waste of time and money, obviously, you say no. That my question is very simple and clear, that is it useful to send employees on an outside training? Yes. If your answer is yes, say yes. If your answer is no, simply put no. So if you don't consider there is point in external training, just forget it, say no. If you think yes, then put yes. You consider there is any benefit? If yes, then put yes. If you think there is no benefit, just say no. So Harun Sahab, may I request you to show us the results? And your comments?
I think the first result, it is very beneficial to send employees out of the organization for training. I mean, the biggest advantage of that is and they come across other individuals from different other organizations, and that serves as broadening the vision and networking.
Yes, broadening vision, networking. So majority here consider that yes, it is useful to send our employees for training. So I won't spend much time on the case for training because we are already here. We believe that yes, the answer is okay, and we all agree that there are benefits, as Arun mentioned, networking and learning new skills professionally and otherwise. So case for training, like what are the expected benefits? That is something which we need to demonstrate, that how the training is going to improve skill. One thing which I would like to mention here to all of you, training is not answer to all problems and all questions. If I say that I'm going to go to that training and I'm going to solve all the issues, it's the application of the skills which solve the problem. It is something which we learn and we apply that solves the problem. If we just learn and we don't do anything, that won't help. Trainings need to focus on skills development, and skills can be developed at the workplace as well. What is coaching? Coaching is a form of training that allows a task leader to enhance a person's skill by treating real work as a learning opportunity. Like if we want a person to learn within the environment in which he or she is working, we need to coach. And coaching is a form of training, I would say, which helps that person to actually develop some kind of skill. So a manager can use coaching when you consider that your executive is not performing the job, he or she needs to develop critical skills, he or she has lesser experience, he lacks or she lacks the confidence needed, or he or she fails to perform the job as required. So in all these cases, we need to coach. And there is a very good model which is called EDAC, which is explain, demonstrate, apply, and consolidate. You need to explain what kind of behavior are you looking into your subordinates. You need to explain to him or her that, look, these are the outcomes I want. These are the key performance indicators. And then you demonstrate that this is certainly doable. This is not something which I'm asking from you out of the world. This is the way it is going to happen. And then you give the chance or an opportunity for that person to apply. You work with him or her, and then you consolidate and you keep on coaching till you get the desired result. This is particularly for those who mentioned that their teams are not working good. So I would suggest you to apply this model, explain in clear terms about the end results which you need, demonstrate by your own work that this is possible, let them apply and then consolidate. So this is called EDAC model of coaching. So there are people who are very slow learners. We need to appreciate that fact. And we need to be a little patient when we deal with such people. We need to draw a plan which is according to the need of the people who have got that slow learning, I would say. And we need to break the learning plan into manageable part. Last thing which I would like to say here when you're dealing with people is give feedback in a positive manner. There is a hamburger approach which is cited and which is used. I have personally used it and I really found very useful. You start with genuine appreciation. It's like the first point of a burger, of the bun kebab or the burger which we have, the McDonald's burger. Then we mention about something which we need to change, some behavior or some tangible measure which we want that person to focus on, and then again we have the lower end of the burger that we close with a positive note. So you see two positive things and then in between what we want them to change. So if you adopt that hamburger approach, you will be able to communicate in a very effective manner because you are talking positive and at the same time you are telling him or her about the behavior which you need to change. And now we will talk a little about teamwork. You might have heard it is said that there is no I in team. Together, everyone achieves more. In teams, we share our experiences, we get better results. It's a learning opportunity for individuals. When we come together, we learn from each other. However, having said that, it's time consuming. Forming team, keeping them together, it's an issue. It's time consuming. We may compromise on individual side, and a team is needed where task requires openness, sharing of ideas, feeling and trust, and there are genuine problems and people are actually willing to tackle problem in team. So whenever a team is formed, we need to consider that why is team required in first place? How are we going to resolve the conflicts? And this approach that we have tried this before, we need to address that. And benefits of teamwork need to be sold. Like in your own department, you can work to form smaller team or task forces to work on a particular environment so that they learn more and people can actually work together. Now we are actually towards conclusion of our discussion, and there are a couple of last tips which I would like to share and get your views before we conclude. It is said that things don't change, we change. It's not the items or tangible things which change, it's the people we are dealing with which need to change, and we are talking about behavior. We are not talking about a person as a holistic view. We are talking about the demonstration or the behavior which is there at workplace which might need change at time. And leadership is something that is related to getting results, getting things done, and a good result, a good leader is a person who get things done. How can we inspire people? A few tips. First, we need to walk the talk. If we are not on time ourselves and we are telling others to be on time, I think that would be a little problematic. We need to listen effectively, and there are tools and techniques on effective listening. It's one thing to use our ears, but it's second thing to actually listen, analyze and absorb what you have listened and then apply that. And to inspire people, we need to sell benefits, not the problems. So my poll question, most of you said that you like your boss. May I request Harun Saab to put this as a poll question? This is a different question now. You are satisfied with your boss. Thank you for your responses to that. May I ask, are you inspired by your boss? Yes or no? So this is a poll question, a little different question.
The audience to type in the question box.
Sorry, Harun sir. So my question is.
Ask the audience to type in the question box.
Yes, why not? Can you type in your question box if you are inspired by your boss, yes or no? So we are getting responses. There are a couple of no's. There are many yeses. Oh, Harun sir, yeses are more, no's are less. But you see, now we are having no, no, never, no. But there are many yes. So there are inspiring bosses and there are not inspiring bosses in our culture or in our environment or in our business. So there are yeses and there are no's. And there are no's. So you might like your boss, you might like to work with him or her, but you may or may not be inspired by your boss, because you may think that he or she is getting things done because of the position, but there are bosses who are inspirational. There are bosses who genuinely inspire people. So here what we want to clarify one thing, that it's one thing to work with boss, and it's another thing to be inspired by the action of your boss. And the last topic of our discussion today is achieving results. If you want to achieve results, there are a couple of tips I would say. Trust in people. This is really something difficult, because as techies, as operational people, we are of the view that it's better that I do it myself. Why should I delegate? Why should I trust that guy? He or she is going to make a mistake and then I have to do it again. But let's look at it from a different perspective. The guy makes a mistake, we allow him or her to carry on, And next time when the things come in, we are sure that that person has an experience, so he is going to perform or she is going to perform it better than that time. So it might be a one-time investment, but the results would be helpful. You would be able to delegate it better, get the things done from him or her, because you have trust, you have faith, and that trust would be reciprocated. We need to believe in the result through a skillful team, and we need to plan and execute. And here I need to mention one thing, because people do say that this is very bookish, plans don't work. I 100% agree with you. In real life, plans keep on changing. But remember, proper prior planning prevents poor performance. Worst plan is a plan. We know that we have a plan of execution. That is better than having no planning at all. Plan might change. The actual results might be different from what we planned, but at least we have a plan. So having a plan is a first step to convince ourselves that we have a direction to follow. That plan may not be executed in the way we thought, but at least we know that we have a plan. And we can monitor the results, and we can keep the plan changing as we go. Plans will go wrong. When you deliver good results, just think, how did you plan at that time? Just think that when the results were not good, how did you plan that time? I'm sure that both the planning processes which resulted into good results and which resulted into not so good result must have a different planning approach. So we need to analyze ourselves. And last couple of questions: what exactly do we need our people to do? What resources are required? And in resources, I'm not talking about physical resources. I'm talking about attitude, skills, and knowledge at work besides other resources. How will you get other people involved and committed? This is something which in our workplace we might observe that because it's a top-down approach, people generally are not inspired and not involved or committed. What are the key critical areas where performance need to be improved? What could go wrong, and what can we do to improve that? We need to put our plan in action, and if things are slipping, we need to take action. So these are the food for thought when we deal with people. And once we focus on results, we deal with people in a different manner. And it is said, it's a funny thing about life that if you refuse to accept anything but the best, you often get it. Somerset Maugham was a very experienced English writer, and he said that it's a funny thing about life, if you refuse to accept anything but the best, you often get it. So in practical life, we observe that promises are made and not kept. Deadlines are missed. There are panics. You say, I can't rely on others, better I do it myself. People are expected to produce with less and less resources, but I would like you to remember that there's no point in blaming others. There's absolutely no point in blaming others. I am responsible for my life. Everyone is. Every manager is responsible for his or her own life. And we need to respect that position. My question, what one thing which if you get genie, you will like to improve in your staff? My question is very simple. What one thing which if you get a genie, you would like to improve in your staff? So may I request your answers on that? We are about to conclude, Anil, you just mentioned here, we are just going to conclude. These are last two things. I'm just going to show you about the readings, and then we are going to close it. So thank you for your time and patience. So we are getting comments: teamwork, level of integrity, commitment, honor, seriousness, assertiveness. They do not seek salary. Honest answer. Ali, please explain this further. Attitude towards work, productivity, you want them to be productive, you want them not to be jealous, you want them to take ownership, You want them to be more knowledgeable. You need teamwork, integrity. So you see, you can make a whole list out of it. You want them to then I would say, oh, wonderful. Knowledge, productivity, contentment. The presentation will be sent to all, Shabasa. Commitment to learn more, committed, yes. Everything which you said is something which you need to demonstrate. Whatever you mentioned here is absolutely right. I want 101 things in my staff. The question is, am I exhibiting that? Am I showing my staff that I have that thing in myself? What do you need your staff to do? What skills are needed? Is their attitude right? Are the goals clear? So I would like to conclude here. First of all, thank you everyone for your time. For further reading on this particular subject, I would recommend to read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. There is a very good book, Managing Difficult Staff by Helga Duman. Harvard Business Review has got its 10 must reading on managing people. There is a book on how to manage people by Sunday Time. And I would like you to go through a book, The People's Manager Pocket Book by Ian Fleming, which I have used a lot. Improve Your People Skill by Peter Honey. Peter Honey has written a lot on people management, and you can actually go through his work when you need that. So thank you very much, everyone. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you for your time. I'm done with my presentation, and I would really like to answer your questions. You are going to get this presentation. Thank you for taking part in the poll, and thank you for your time again. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Melissa, we have one final poll question to run, and that is about this participants' feedback on the webinar. So,
sure.
Can you very quickly run this?
Sure, kindly. That would be better. Please go ahead.
Okay, here we go. So, all the participants available here, although some have left, but how did you find the session? Need your feedback. Was it excellent? Was it very useful? It was just useful. It could have been better, or it was unacceptable. Alexa, despite his sore throat, I think.
Yeah, my throat is actually gone. So.
Yeah. You're actually running a presentation, 3 consecutive days in before, and now this webinar.
Yeah, so thank you, Arun sir, for this opportunity. I really like participation by people. It must be appreciated.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your sharing of knowledge. I think this was very, very useful. I'm sure a lot of members who attended it will benefit from these learnings. So just take 10 more seconds. And that's it. Okay. And I'm going to share the results. I think fantastic results. 34% found it excellent, 54% found it very useful, 10% found it useful, and 2% are going to receive a phone call from me. What could have been better, we'd love to know. However, I think more than 88%, 88% found it very useful or excellent. Very well, excellent. Thank you very much. Over to you, Alexa, and say a goodbye.
Again, yeah, I would really like to thank everybody for your time, honestly, taking time out of your busy schedules. I would really like to appreciate all the participants for their wonderful feedback, sharing their experiences, taking part in poll. This is really good, and I really felt that I am actually sitting in a webinar and you people are in front of me and I'm not seeing you. But I think this was a wonderful experience, and the way you participated, the way you shared your experience, I do appreciate, I acknowledge, and I'm grateful to you for your time. You'll get the presentation, so you can connect me over Facebook, LinkedIn, and you can ask me questions and we can keep in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Alexa. And I think that's all for the day. I'm sure you must have thoroughly enjoyed the session, and from the feedback that we are getting in the questions dialogue box, I think fantastic. Um, I understand some of them want the webinars to be on Saturdays and Sundays, but see, the situation is a such tight schedule that that we are forced to run sessions on some of the weekdays as well. However, for those who miss some part of the webinars, the recording is immediately made available. Thank you all very much, and have a nice weekend. And let's meet, inshallah, in the next webinar. So,
thank you. Thank you. Take care.